We've already shown you the disturbing images of parents forcing their kids to chant at Wisconsin's Capitol building. Maybe they should form a child union to ensure chanting breaks. But this weekend, it got even worse. This weekend, the zombies came out. Now, I know that people used to dress their kids up at tea parties to look like Uncle Sam, etc., but here this one's got blood all over their face. They're dressed as zombies. Oh, isn't that cute? And what are they chanting? They're holding up signs that say, "Eat the rich," while chanting, "Eat their brains." Well, that's not a problem, is it? All to make a point about collective bargaining. May I just spend a minute on collective bargaining? FDR, the lion of progressivism, was against it for government employees. And that's what we're talking about here. Why was he against it? Because FDR was not anti-American. He just didn't see America the same way. But he wasn't trying to destroy it entirely. He was going to make it the leader of the world. He warned about the dangers of government strike, which he called unthinkable and intolerable. Even the president of the AFL-CIO in 1955 said it was impossible to collectively bargain with the government. This was never a right. This was an executive order by John Kennedy. There was never a law passed. You have two parties negotiating a deal, and they're using someone else's money, yours. How is this working? You have the unions and the politicians. The unions want money from the politicians. The politicians give them the money through special sweetheart deals. Then the unions make sure that the people vote for that politician by using their money. Do you see what's happening? And they're equating that with Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. It's an abomination. I told you at the very beginning of this year, when I came back from vacation and we met here, I told you about E4. I told you that you were the solution to stop looking for leaders, to be a leader yourself. Enlightenment. Find out what you truly believe. Is God important? Educate yourself, empower yourself, and then entrepreneurship. Be part of something creative, not a destructive force. Be a force for good. Know that history and the truth of your own country, it is so important because history is being hijacked. I love this little piece of history about Bill Ayers. This Bill Ayers is a pillar in his community. Does anyone even bother to point out that not only did he actually target and blow up buildings, not only did he do that, he killed police officers, he and his pals, in an armed robbery. His group didn't even blink when they talked about slaughtering 25 million people. Let me show you a little piece of history. This is a former FBI agent who went undercover at the Weather Underground, talked about what was said and discussed in the meetings. Listen.
I ask, well, what is going to happen to those people that we can't re-educate, that are die-hard capitalists? And the reply was that they'd have to be eliminated. And when I pursued this further, they estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill.
Well, isn't it convenient that we are educating our children by putting blood on their faces and have them chant, "Eat the rich" and "Eat their brains"? Not suggesting that anyone's going to have our children eat the rich, literally, but we are dehumanizing them now, aren't we? It makes it easier to liquidate. Now, these guys are on the love boat of revolution. The same people that talked about killing 25 million Americans, if you can't get them to give up capitalism, kill them. They're now on the flotilla. How much love can there be? And how much love is there in Wisconsin, where the unions recently set out letters to threaten hundreds of local businesses? Quote in the letter, "Failure to do so will leave us no choice but to do a public boycott of your business. And sorry, neutral means no to those who work for the largest employer in the area and are union members." Is that love or is that a threat? Ask yourself, where does this lead? Where does it end? How does it end? I'll show you how it has ended in the past next. We're talking about the unions, and this isn't the first time businesses have been attacked. I want to go here. Tell me what the problem is. Is it the rich capitalist, the union boss, the politician, or you, the taxpayer and investor? Where is the problem? Is it this one, or this one? It could be a combination of all of them. Well, let me show you how they work. 1877, the workers for the B&O Railroad went on strike. Their wages had been cut 2 separate times. They refused to let the trains run until their pay cut was returned. The state militia were called, but sided with the workers, so they didn't do anything. And the protests spread to several states. Strikers actually gained control of several cities. Then they destroyed railroad property, set fire to buildings, destroyed freight and passenger cars, and they shut down service. It wasn't stopped until federal troops were sent in to restore order. Where will the federal government stand now? Do you think they're going to be the one that is going to help you when things spiral out of control? Of course, bottom up, top down, and inside out. It can be even worse. The Italian Socialist Party had what they called Red Week, a period of widespread rioting throughout the country. The New York Times reported on the strike and the strike war, and they called it anarchy in Italy. Many are killed. Warships are ready. It was total chaos. Traffic was thwarted. Railroads attacked. Injured passengers. Bombs were tossed into the crowds. The government came down with a heavy hand to quell the uprising. Top down, bottom up, inside out. That one ended in Mussolini. If you can't nudge, you shove. And if you can't shove, well, there's only one more option. But it all starts with intimidation, like it is now in Wisconsin. You're being told by the unions that the government doesn't have the money, that they are not broke, that they can afford the pensions. But a retired teacher in California makes more than those teaching in 28 states. California needs a 20% return on their investment just to make ends meet. 20%. Does that sound reasonable? If I could get 20% or you could get 20%, we'd all be rich. How could you get 20% on your investment? That's Bernie Madoff stuff. It's fiction. Who does their budget like that? Do you? Florida sugar-coated their budget, basing it on projected 7% returns. But over the last decade, they've only averaged 2.6. So keep your fingers crossed. What happens? Now, let me ask you this, Stephen Lerner. If you're setting out now to collapse the stock market, which your pension funds are in, how does this help the teachers and the firemen and the police, the taxpayer and the investor? Remember, you want to get this guy because the rich capitalist is a bad guy. So the friendly union boss takes the money and says, I'm going to put it in a pension fund along with the politician. They invested in stocks. Well, that's bad too. And that's when the union boss says, we're going to collapse the stock market. Well, then what happens to your money? What happens to your money? You collapse the stock market, all your pension is here. The problem is not here with you, the investor, the taxpayer, or the union member. The problem is this. Look at this. These two have been colluding, whether it is Republican or Democrat. And the rich capitalist, may I just point out, GE? They're all in it together. And they're all blaming someone else. They're the only ones that are going to walk away with any money. You have nothing. Don't be used by them. Because in the end, it is going to collapse because they're all corrupt. And they want it to collapse. But if we haven't linked arms with people who believe in the same thing, union members, you believe in the same kind of America that I do, one that is fair, is for equal justice under the law, one that puts the bad guys in jail. We thought on September 11th that we were all alike. On September 12th, we all stood hand in hand. Well, one of the guys that the unions and so many Americans are standing joined with because they think he's a normal guy is Van Jones. He has been so scrubbed clean by the left that nobody really knows who he is. You, in the end, after it collapses, you'll be standing here hand in hand with Van Jones. Well, do you really believe the same thing that Van Jones does? Is he going to help you rebuild the America that you grew up knowing? Or is he for a system that you don't even recognize? Well, to answer that question, we have recently found a videotape of what Van Jones was doing the day after 9/11. Where were you on 9/12? Listen to what one of the radicals in attendance had to say where Van Jones was.
We want to also understand, though, that their lives were lost because of our government's inhumane foreign policy. And we should be angry. We should be off at what our country does around the rest of the world that leads us not to be safe here.
Van Jones had similar words. That's where he was on 9/11 when you most likely were at a blood bank comforting someone else. A lot of people just think that Van Jones is just a normal guy. He is not. Here he is the day after 9/11 at that same rally.
It's the bombs that the government has been dropping around the world that are now blowing up inside the U.S. borders. We've got something stronger than bombs. We have solidarity.
There it
That dream
is.
of revolutionary change is stronger than bombs.
The day after 9/11. Do the events in the Middle East now make sense when I tell you this? Radicals, Islamists, communists, and socialists are working together against Israel. When you see where he was and what he said, this wonderful human being that is just like you, when you hear what he was saying on 9/12/2001, you might want to reconsider. Be careful where you stand. Because I know my mother told me, and I bet she told you, show me your friends and I will show you your future. Is that where you were on that day, union workers? Thinking like that? This is a question you must ask yourself now. Do I see America the same way as these communist, radicals, revolutionaries, and Islamists see America? If not, get away and stand with others like you.